She sang at Mafia boss daughter's birthday party. He refused to let her leave. "You should fear me," he told her as they stood on the terrace, the setting sun painting the sky in shades of amber and rose. "Everyone else does. I'm not everyone else." Aria turned to face him, close enough to see the flecks of gold in his dark eyes. "And fear isn't what I feel when I look at you. Have you ever wondered what happens when a single performance changes your entire life? When a woman with nothing but her voice captivates one of the most dangerous men in Italy?" This is exactly what happened to Aria Novak, a struggling musician who accepted what seemed like an innocent gig, only to find herself unable to leave the estate of Milan's most notorious mafia boss. If you've ever been drawn to someone you know you should stay away from, hit that like button right now. Aria's fingers trembled slightly as she adjusted the microphone stand. The weight of dozens of eyes followed her every movement across the small stage set up in the Bellini estate's grand ballroom. Crystal chandeliers cast a warm glow over Milan's elite, their whispers fading as she took her position. She hadn't known when accepting this high-paying gig exactly who she would be performing for. Now, standing before Vincent Bellini himself, she understood why her agent had been so nervous yet insistent that she take the job. 8 years ago, Aria had been Professor Novak at Rome's prestigious music conservatory. Her future had seemed secure until budget cuts eliminated her position, sending her career into a tailspin. Now, at 32, she pieced together a living through private lessons and occasional performances. The viral video of her singing in a small cafe had been a stroke of luck, one that had apparently caught the attention of the Bellini family. Vincent Bellini sat at the center table, his presence commanding the room despite his relaxed posture. Dark hair peppered with silver at the temples framed a face that might have belonged to a film star if not for the hardness around his eyes. Those eyes now fixed on her with an intensity that made her breath catch. The rumors about his business dealings had reached even her small circle, though no authority had ever managed to make charges stick. Beside him sat a teenage girl with his same dark eyes but a softer expression, Sofia Bellini, celebrating her 16th birthday. The girl leaned forward in anticipation as Aria nodded to the small ensemble behind her. The first notes of the song filled the room, and Aria closed her eyes, letting the music wash through her. When she began to sing, her rich soprano carried effortlessly through the space. She opened her eyes midway through the first verse, and immediately found Vincent's gaze locked on her. Something electric passed between them, an unexpected recognition that made her voice falter for just a heartbeat before she recovered. His gaze never wavered, dark and intense, as if he were seeing beyond her performance to something hidden within. For the remainder of her set, Aria felt as though she were singing for him alone, despite the room full of guests. Her final song, a hauntingly beautiful rendition of an old Italian love ballad, seemed to affect him most deeply. A muscle twitched in his jaw, and for a moment, the hardness in his eyes softened into something like pain. As the final notes faded, the room erupted in applause. Sofia Bellini jumped to her feet, clapping enthusiastically. Vincent's applause was more restrained, but his eyes never left Aria's face. "That's the one," Sofia had insisted when showing her father the viral video of Aria singing. "She has to perform at my birthday." Vincent, who denied his daughter nothing, had made it happen with a single phone call and an offer no struggling artist could refuse. What he hadn't anticipated was the effect Aria's presence would have on him. Since losing his wife to cancer 8 years ago, Vincent had closed himself off to anything resembling vulnerability. His world had narrowed to 2 priorities, protecting his daughter and expanding his empire. Romance was a luxury he couldn't afford, a weakness his enemies would exploit. Yet as Aria finished her performance and the party continued around her, Vincent found himself watching her from across the room. She moved with a quiet confidence, politely declining drinks from admirers, her smile never quite reaching her eyes. There was a solitude about her that resonated with something in him. Hours later, after the guests had departed and the staff was clearing the last of the decorations, Vincent found Aria gathering her sheet music by the piano. You'll stay, he told her, his words somewhere between a request and a command. Aria looked up, startled by his sudden appearance. I'm sorry? Sophia wants singing lessons, Vincent continued, moving closer. And I want. He paused, and used to uncertainty. I want you to bring music back to this house. Aria should have been frightened. Everything about the situation, the armed guard she'd noticed throughout the evening, the isolated estate, the man whose gentle manner with his daughter contrasted sharply with the coldness in his eyes when addressing his subordinates, screamed danger. Yet what she felt wasn't fear but a strange, reckless curiosity. I have commitments, she replied, meeting his gaze steadily. Students, performances. All easily resolved. His smile didn't reach his eyes. Name your price. Some things aren't for sale, Mr. Bellini. His expression shifted, surprise replacing certainty. Few people refused him anything. Then consider it a request. Please. For Sophia. It was the please that undid her, unexpected from a man who commanded rather than asked. That, and the brief glimpse of loneliness she recognized in his eyes, a perfect mirror to her own. 2 months, she conceded. No longer. The guest house where she was installed the next day became her sanctuary, luxurious but isolated, with windows overlooking the estate's vast gardens. The space was larger than her entire apartment in the city, with a baby grand piano in the corner that made her heart skip when she first saw it. Is it suitable? Vincent asked, standing in the doorway as she explored. It's beautiful, Aria admitted, running her fingers over the piano keys. Though I can't help but notice the security cameras. A necessary precaution. He didn't apologize or explain further. Sophia will meet you in the main house music room at 10 tomorrow. Dinner is at 7. I'd appreciate your company. Before she could respond, he was gone, leaving her to wonder what exactly she had agreed to. Each morning, she taught Sophia, whose sweet voice and eager enthusiasm made the lessons a joy. The girl had inherited her father's intensity but none of his coldness, throwing herself into each exercise with determination. Dad used to sing with Mom, Sophia confided during their 3rd lesson. Before she got sick. He hasn't touched the piano since she died. Aria nodded, understanding better the weight behind Vincent's request to bring music back to this house. Each evening, Vincent joined them for dinner, initially silent and observant, gradually becoming more engaged as days passed. He watched Aria with a curiosity that might have been unnerving if she hadn't been studying him just as carefully. You were a professor once, he noted one night, surprising her with his knowledge of her past. At the conservatory in Rome. Until budget cuts eliminated my position, Aria confirmed, wondering what else he knew about her. How did you? I make it my business to know who enters my home. His tone was unapologetic. Especially those who spend time with my daughter. And those who intrigue you? The word slipped out before she could reconsider. Vincent's eyes darkened. Those most of all. If you believe true connection can happen in the most unexpected places, subscribe to Lucy Love Stories for more tales that will touch your heart. Their connection deepened through music. Vincent, she discovered, played the piano with surprising skill, though he claimed to have abandoned the practice years ago. One evening, finding him alone in the music room, his fingers moving over the keys with restrained passion, Aria began to sing, her voice complementing his playing in perfect harmony. He looked up, startled by her presence, but didn't stop. Together they completed the piece, the final notes hanging in the air between them like a confession. My wife loved this song, he said quietly. I haven't played it since she died. Tell me about her, Aria said, sitting beside him on the bench. Vincent hesitated, then spoke of his Eleonora, her kindness, her strength, how she had known what he was and loved him anyway. How her death had left him adrift, clinging to his daughter and his empire as the only anchors in a world suddenly empty of light. "You've built walls," Aria observed. "To keep the pain out. To keep Sophia safe," he corrected. "In my world, attachment is vulnerability. And loneliness? Is that strength?" His fingers brushed hers on the piano keys, the contact brief but electric. "What would you know of loneliness, with your voice that draws people to you like moths to flame?" "Having people around you isn't the same as being seen," she replied softly. "Being heard." Something shifted between them that night, a boundary crossed, a truth acknowledged. Vincent began seeking her company beyond the music lessons, showing her his collection of rare books, walking with her through gardens designed by his grandmother, sharing stories of his childhood in Sicily before his family's move to northern Italy. "My father was a fisherman," he told her as they strolled past a fountain where stone nymphs poured water from eternal jugs. "He came to Milan with nothing but determination and a talent for making people believe in him. And now the Bellini name opens every door in Italy," Aria noted. "Not every door." Vincent's expression darkened. "There are still those who see us as outsiders. Who remember my father's beginnings and refuse to acknowledge what we've built. Is that why you maintain such security? Those rival families I've heard whispers about?" Vincent stopped walking, turning to face her. "You've been asking questions." "I'm observant," Aria corrected. "The guards change shifts at precise intervals. Your men check every delivery 3 times before it enters the property. And sometimes, when you receive certain phone calls, everyone around you suddenly finds urgent business elsewhere." A smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. "Perhaps I should be more concerned about what you've observed." "Perhaps you should be more concerned about what I haven't mentioned," she countered, matching his smile with her own. Aria found herself drawn to the contradictions in him, the tenderness he showed Sophia contrasted with the ruthless efficiency his business required, the appreciation for beauty alongside the capacity for calculated violence, the loneliness he carried despite being surrounded by people who obeyed his every command. One evening, as they stood on the terrace watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant hues, Vincent turned to her with unusual seriousness. "You should fear me," he told her, the setting sun painting his face in shades of amber and rose. "Everyone else does." "I'm not everyone else." Aria turned to face him, close enough to see the flecks of gold in his dark eyes. "And fear isn't what I feel when I look at you." His hand rose to her face, fingers tracing her cheekbone with a gentleness that belied his strength. "What do you feel, then?" Instead of answering, she kissed him, a reckless act that surprised them both. For a moment he remained still, and then he responded with a passion that swept away all hesitation, all doubt, all awareness of anything beyond this unexpected connection. When they finally broke apart, Vincent's expression held wonder and conflict in equal measure. "This complicates everything," he murmured, his forehead resting against hers. "Life without complications isn't really living," Aria replied, her heart racing. "It's just existing." Their relationship blossomed in secret corners of the estate, stolen moments in the garden at dawn, quiet evenings in the library after Sophia had gone to bed, passionate encounters in the guest house when the rest of the household slept. Aria knew the danger, understood the complexity of loving a man like Vincent, yet found herself unable to resist the pull between them. What would you risk for a love that transforms you? One morning, as Aria guided Sophia through vocal exercises, the girl stopped suddenly, fixing her with a knowing look. "You make him happy," she said without preamble. "I haven't seen him like this since before Mom died." Aria felt heat rise to her cheeks. "Sophia, He smiles now," Sophia continued, her expression earnest. "Really smiles, not just the polite one he uses for business. And he's playing music again. You don't have to pretend with me. Your father and I, it's complicated. Love always is, Sophia replied with a wisdom beyond her years. Mom used to say that anything worth having requires courage. As the 2-month mark approached, neither Vincent nor Aria mentioned her departure. The arrangement, initially temporary, had evolved into something neither was willing to name yet both were reluctant to end. Aria found herself imagining a future at the estate, wondering if there could be a place for her in Vincent's world beyond their current stolen moments. Then reality intruded in the form of a rival family's attack, a calculated strike against Vincent's business interests that left 2 of his men dead and brought the violence of his world crashing into the sanctuary they had created. Aria was in the garden when she heard the commotion, shouting, the sound of vehicles arriving at speed, orders being barked in urgent tones. She rushed toward the house, fear clutching at her throat, only to be intercepted by one of Vincent's security team. Ms. Novak, please return to the guest house immediately, the man said, his hand on his weapon. Mr. Bellini's orders. Is he all right? Is Sophia safe? Aria demanded. They're unharmed. Please, you need to go now. For hours, she paced the confines of the guest house, watching through the windows as men with guns patrolled the grounds. When Vincent finally came to her, his face was a mask of cold fury, his shirt spattered with what she feared was blood. You need to leave, he told her, his voice cold with fear disguised as detachment. It's no longer safe for you here. Because of what happened today? Because of what could happen tomorrow. Vincent's expression was shuttered, the wall she had so carefully dismantled now firmly back in place. I was selfish to keep you here this long. To involve you in my life. Shouldn't that be my decision? Aria challenged, refusing to be dismissed. What we've built these past weeks was a fantasy, he interrupted harshly. A temporary escape from reality. My reality includes enemies who wouldn't hesitate to use you against me. Who would hurt you to hurt me? So you'll hurt me first? Push me away to protect me? Vincent turned away, his shoulders rigid with tension. A car will take you to the city tomorrow. Your apartment has been maintained in your absence. Your position at the community center is still available. Look at me, Aria demanded, moving to stand before him. Tell me you don't love me. Tell me what we shared meant nothing. Say it to my face, Vincent. His eyes, when they met hers, contained a storm of emotion, love and fear, desire and resignation. What I feel doesn't matter. Your safety does. I'm not afraid. Then you should be. His voice roughened. I've done things, Aria. Things you can't imagine. The life I've built, the choices I've made, they come with consequences. I won't let those consequences touch you. They already have. She placed her hand over his heart, feeling its rapid beat beneath her palm. You can send me away, but you can't undo what's happened between us. You can't make me unlove you. For a moment, she thought she had reached him. Then his expression hardened, the vulnerability vanishing beneath the mask of the man the world feared. The car will be ready at 9, he said, stepping away from her touch. Goodbye, Aria. If you've ever had to choose between love and safety, comment below with your experience. She left as instructed, returning to a life that felt hollow after the intensity of her time at the Bellini estate. Her apartment seemed smaller, colder than she remembered. The familiar routine of lessons and performances that had once satisfied her now felt like going through motions without purpose. Days passed in a blur, each song now carrying an undercurrent of loss that her audiences mistook for artistic depth. They praised the emotion in her voice, unaware that each note was colored by the memory of Vincent's hands on the piano keys, his eyes watching her across the dinner table, his voice low in her ear as they walked through moonlit gardens. Your singing has changed, one of her students observed after a demonstration. It's like you're telling a story with every note now. Aria smiled faintly. Music should always tell a story. What's your story? The young woman asked innocently. Aria turned away, unable to answer. How could she explain that she'd fallen in love with a man whose world was too dangerous to include her? That she understood his decision to send her away even as it tore her apart. At night, she found herself sitting at her small keyboard, playing the song she and Vincent had shared that first evening in the music room. Her fingers remembered every note, just as her body remembered his touch. The melody haunted her dreams, following her through days that blurred together in shades of gray. A week after her departure, as Aria was leaving the community center after an evening class, a familiar black car pulled alongside her. Her heart leapt before she could temper the reaction. The driver, one of Vincent's most trusted men, opened the door without a word. Inside sat Sophia, her eyes red-rimmed from crying. He's miserable without you, she said without preamble. Too stubborn to admit it, too proud to come himself. Your father made his choice, Aria replied, fighting the surge of hope in her chest. Out of fear, not love. Sophia took Aria's hands in hers. He doesn't sleep. He barely eats. He sits at the piano for hours but never plays a note. I've never seen him like this, not even after Mom died. Sophia, I can't just. He's always protected me, the girl interrupted. Made decisions he thought were best for my safety. Now it's my turn to do the same for him. She pressed a key into Aria's palm. The side entrance to the garden. Tonight at midnight. He'll be in the music room. Sophia. Please, the girl interrupted, her eyes pleading. He deserves happiness. You both do. That night, heart-pounding, Aria used the key to slip through the garden gate. The estate was quiet, security focused on the main entrances. She made her way to the music room, drawn by the soft sound of the piano, Vincent playing their song, the one they had first shared. She stood in the doorway, watching him for a moment before speaking. You play it differently now, she said softly. With more feeling. Vincent's hands stilled on the keys, but he didn't turn. You shouldn't be here. Yet here I am. Aria moved into the room, closing the distance between them. Loving you despite your best efforts to prevent it. When he finally looked up, the raw emotion in his eyes took her breath away. I thought distance would make it easier, he admitted. It only made it unbearable. Then stop pushing me away. She sat beside him on the bench, their shoulders touching. I know the risks. I choose them. I choose you. My world is dangerous, Aria. So is living without love. She took his hand, placing it over her heart. Feel that? It's been beating for you since the first night I sang in this house. That won't change whether I'm here or 1,000 miles away. Vincent's resistance crumbled, his arms pulling her close with desperate need. I can't lose you, he whispered against her hair. Not after finding you. Then don't send me away again, Aria replied, her voice steady with certainty. Let me stay. Let us face whatever comes together. In the music room where their connection had first deepened, Vincent and Aria began writing a new composition, one of risk and trust, passion and commitment, a love powerful enough to bridge their different worlds and strong enough to withstand the dangers that would inevitably come. The weeks that followed weren't easy. Vincent's enemies, sensing his newfound vulnerability, increased their attacks on his business interests. Twice, Aria had to be moved to a secure location when threats came too close to the estate. Security around both her and Sophia doubled, their movements outside the property carefully orchestrated and heavily guarded. Is this how it will always be? Aria asked one night as they lay together, the moonlight casting shadows across their entwined figures. I can't promise it will get easier, Vincent answered honestly. But I can promise you won't face it alone. Sophia thrived with Aria's permanent presence in the house. The girls' singing improved dramatically, and the three of them often spent evenings in the music room, creating harmonies that filled the once silent mansion with life. In those moments, surrounded by music and the two people he loved most, Vincent allowed himself to believe in the possibility of happiness. You've changed him, Marco, Vincent's right-hand man, told Aria one afternoon as he escorted her back from a carefully guarded performance at the Milan Opera House. He considers consequences now, looks for solutions beyond force. He was always capable of that, Aria replied. He just needed to remember there are things worth protecting beyond power and territory. The first real test came 3 months after her return, when a rival family proposed a truce. The negotiations were delicate, the distrust on both sides deeply rooted in generations of conflict. Vincent approached the talks with a new perspective, seeking common ground rather than dominance. My father would call me weak, he confessed to Aria the night before the final meeting. He believed compromise was surrender. And what do you believe? That I want Sophia to inherit a different legacy than the one I received. That perhaps there's more strength in building peace than in winning wars. The truce held, tentative at first, then strengthening as both families discovered the benefits of cooperation over conflict. Other families followed suit, drawn to the stability and increased profits the new arrangements offered. Vincent's influence grew not through fear but through respect, a transformation that rippled through Milan's underworld. 1 year after Aria first sang at Sophia's birthday party, Vincent took her to the terrace where they had shared their first kiss. The garden below was illuminated with thousands of tiny lights, transforming the space into a magical wonderland. I once told you that in my world, attachment is vulnerability, he said, taking her hands in his. I was wrong. Loving you hasn't made me weaker, it's given me strength I never knew I needed. From his pocket, he withdrew a small velvet box. Inside nestled a ring of platinum and diamonds, elegant yet understated, perfectly suited to Aria's taste. I can't promise you a normal life, Vincent said, his voice rough with emotion. But I can promise you all of me, for as long as you'll have me. I never wanted normal, Aria replied, tears shimmering in her eyes. I just wanted real. Their wedding was small but joyous, with Sophia serving as maid of honor. The music room where they had found each other became the heart of their home, a sanctuary where harmony was created from discord, where they found in each other the missing notes that made their individual melodies complete. If this story of finding love against all odds touched your heart, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to Lucy Love Stories for more tales that remind us why love is always worth the risk. Sometimes the most beautiful symphonies emerge from the most unexpected places. Aria and Vincent's love story reminds us that true connection requires courage, the courage to be vulnerable, to choose love over fear, to see beyond the walls others build around themselves. In a world that often feels cold and disconnected, their journey shows us that the right person can hear the music in our souls even when we've forgotten how to play it ourselves. Love doesn't promise safety or simplicity. It doesn't guarantee a life without challenges or pain. What it offers instead is a hand to hold through the darkness, a heart that beats in time with our own, and the profound knowledge that whatever comes, we don't have to face it alone. For Aria and Vincent, music became the language of their love, a way to express what words couldn't capture, to bridge the gaps between their different worlds. Their story teaches us that sometimes we must risk everything for the chance at true connection, that the most worthwhile journeys often begin with a single, brave step into the unknown. As you go forward in your own life, remember that love, like music, requires both technique and passion, discipline and abandon. It asks us to be both vulnerable and strong, to protect what matters while remaining open to possibility. And most importantly, it reminds us that even in a world of discord, harmony is possible when two hearts find their shared rhythm.